Moving ahead now, the United Nations Climate Change Conference taking place in Madrid, Spain, has entered its second week.
And since it began on December the 2nd, ways to address the hazardous impact of climate change, especially with the accelerating effects being witnessed globally, have topped discussions at the conference. UN Secretary General Antonio Gutteres says the global response to climate change is inadequate and there is a need to take urgent action to save the planet.
Activists are using the opportunity to call for the sanctioning of big polluters by making them pay more for the damage they cause planet Earth, as prediction of global carbon emissions indicate that it could hit a new record this year.
And we have joining us from Madrid, Spain, Media and Campaigns Environmental Rights Action, Philip Jakpo. Thank you, Philip, for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Now, there are concerns being raised that if developed countries across the world are finding it difficult to commit, what is the hope of developing countries like Africa and even Nigeria?
Well, you are right when you say the developed nations led by the United States are not committing. And the reason why they are not committing is because most of the big polluters, companies like Chevron, companies like Shell, ExxonMobil, are headquartered in their countries. So it's multi-billion-dollar businesses. The only hope we have is for countries of the global south, countries like Nigeria, countries in Africa and Asia, to stand up to the bullying of the United States and these other countries of the West. Last week in the talks, all we noticed were the same big corporations that were responsible for the climate change were all over the place. As you're entering the conference venue, they have their billboards and trying to portray themselves as lovers of the environment. So this is what we are witnessing here, and this is what we also witnessed in Poland last year. Poland, in the COP in Poland, we also witnessed the fact that the big polluters were the ones that sponsored the talks. So when you have those who are responsible for the crisis sponsoring the negotiations, you'll discover that nothing comes out of it. That is what we're also witnessing here in Madrid.
All right, Philip Jakpo, we have to leave it at this point. Thank you for your time on TVC Breakfast.
An unknown number of people are missing or injured after a volcano on New Zealand's popular White Island tourist destination erupted.
Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern says search and rescue crews are assisting at the site of the eruption, which is located off the eastern coast of the North Island. The White Island volcano is New Zealand's most active cone volcano.
Now, the New Zealand's National Emergency Management Agency says it is assessing the situation with scientific advisors to determine the severity of the threat. More than 10,000 people visit the island every year.
The United Nations Climate Change Conference taking place in Madrid, Spain, has entered its second week.
And since it began on December the 2nd, ways to address the hazardous impact of climate change, especially with the accelerating effects being witnessed globally, have topped discussions at the conference. UN Secretary General Antonio Gutteres says the global response to climate change is inadequate and there's need to take urgent action to save the planet.
Activists are using the opportunity to call for the sanctioning of big polluters by making them pay more for the damage they cause planet Earth, as prediction of global carbon emissions indicate that it could hit a new record this year. Well, joining me now from Madrid is the head Media and Campaigns Environmental Rights Action, Philip Jakpo. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Now, global leaders are set to descend on the COP25 climate for another round of negotiations. But do you think that their attendance will lead to high ambition and change protesters' call for sanctions?
Well, I think the biggest issue last week when the talks began and today that the talks continue is the unseriousness in relation to addressing the climate crisis. I think one of the issues that has been on the table is the issue of carbon markets. And that is what civil society groups have been protesting against. Carbon markets will not cut emissions. Carbon markets will only allow polluters to continue polluting while selling permits to pollute to countries of the global south. So that is what has been on the table. And we have complained that not only is this a false solution, it will also allow the fossil fuel industry that is responsible for this global pollution and emissions to continue doing business while pretending as if they are doing something.
So how can we progress from here now?
Well, we have been encouraging countries of the global south that carry the greatest burdens of the climate impacts to stand strong and demand that the real solution is cutting emission at its source. The real solution is to ensure that the historic polluters who have always known, these oil corporations, their own internal documents say they've always known that climate change impacts would result from what they have been doing. These are studies that go like 40, 50 years back. So it's deliberate. They knew what they were doing was going to damage the atmosphere, cause a lot of crisis, and deliberately continue to do this kind of business. So we are demanding that they are made to pay for embarking on these dangerous projects when they knew the impacts will finally come upon man and the environment.
All right, Philip Jakpo, thank you for your time on TVC Breakfast.